Hello and welcome. My name is Ellen with Ellen Estelle, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sew Vogue V9136. So this is a pretty simple straight coat pattern. I actually decided to do this one because of the fabric that I had chosen, and I really like it because it has an interesting collar. It is a loose-fitting unlined coat with a collar, has drop shoulders, a self-lined yoke back with a forward shoulder seam. It has a back belt though and has stitched hems. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually fully line the jacket. I ended up making a pattern piece and combining the back yoke with the back bodice, and then I also line the sleeves and the front. This pattern calls for medium weight woolens, fleece, or gabardine. I am actually using a lightweight boucle from Joann Fabrics. If you haven't already, you can see my fabric haul. This fabric has this really pretty gold coloring throughout, and it has kind of a block print here with the dark black, a black and white mix, and then it also has the white and then like the gray and white mix. And I really like the print, but it's a really large scale. So I chose this pattern because it wouldn't break up the print too much and make it like too crazy, so you can still see the print, but I also feel like it doesn't overpower or overwhelm the person wearing it. The buttons are from SR Harris. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to fully line this jacket, and I'm enclosing all the seams, so it's closed here. I did not stitch the hem down because it is fully enclosed here. It has a facing and a lining. This collar is probably the coolest part. It stands up just like this. I really like it. I especially worked on my pattern matching, as you can see. So this whole black stripe goes all the way up, and then it goes all the way up the center back as well. And with the belt, I inadvertently ended up pattern matching. It's really like loose fitting, but when you put it on, the way it bunches up, it actually matches pretty well. The sleeves, I didn't worry too much about pattern matching since it has the drop shoulder, and not to mention the pattern ends up going the other way. I also ended up matching the pockets. I don't know if you can see, but I have these patch pockets here that I pattern matched on both sides. So you really can't see them very well, but that's the point. Keep watching to learn more.
First, I'm going to start out by cutting out my pattern pieces from my fashion fabric. This took the longest amount of time because I wanted to make sure that my side seams, center back, and center front matched up with the stripes. In order to create the back lining piece, I overlapped and taped the back yoke and back bodice together at 5/8 of an inch. Then I traced around the pattern onto this white craft paper that I ordered from Amazon. I made sure to transfer all the markings and notches before I cut. For the front lining piece, I traced the front pattern piece onto the paper. Then I lined up and traced the front facing on top of the front piece I drew. The edge of the front facing is where I'll be cutting the pattern. However, before I did that, I added in the additional 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Since I'm using a looser weave boucle fabric, I decided to cut out a small rectangular 2-inch pattern piece for the pocket so I can add interfacing to the top. Then, I cut out interfacing for the front facing, collar, pockets, and belt. Next, I cut out my lining using my new front and back pattern pieces as well as the sleeves. The lining I'm using is a black knit 70 denier lining. Before I start sewing, I iron on all of my interfacing to my front facing, collar, pockets, and belt. Then with right sides together, I'm going to sew the front facing to the front lining at 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to finish my raw edges with the serger, and then press all the seam allowances towards the back. Which should look like this. Next, with right sides together, I'm going to sew the black lining to the front at the shoulder seams. Finish the raw edges and repeat for both sides. Then, with right sides together, pin your sleeves to your armhole, matching the notches and markings. Sew your sleeve at 5/8 of an inch and finish the raw edges. It should look like this. Sew the side seams and sleeves in one stitching line at 5/8 of an inch and finish the raw edges. Your sleeve should look like this. Now with right sides together, sew your back yoke to your back bodice piece. Sew it 5/8 of an inch and finish the raw edge. Before sewing the front bodice to the back, attach your patch pockets to the front. For the pockets, fold in the edges at 5/8 of an inch and fold the top down to the line indicated on the pattern. In this case, I ironed on my interfacing to the top before pressing in all the sides. Then, stitch a line of stitches along the top edge to keep the folded edge down. After sewing the top down, match up your pocket to the markings indicated on the front pattern piece. In this case, I made sure my pockets are matching up with the fabric pattern. Then sew all the way around the outside of the pocket at about 3/8 of an inch, leaving the top of the pocket open. Your pocket should look like this. Once your pockets are sewn, sew your front bodice to the back at the shoulder seams with right sides together. Finish the raw edge and repeat for the other side. Before attaching your sleeve, we're going to sew the belt together. Make sure to iron on your interfacing to one of the belt pieces. Then, with right sides together, sew the two belt pieces along the top and bottom longest edges. Finish the raw edges. Then, pull the belt through so it's right side out through one of the shorter ends. Press and/or sew the top and bottom edges with a top stitching line for a more professional look. Just like with your lining, attach your sleeves at the armhole, matching up the notches and markings. Sew your sleeve at 5/8 of an inch and finish the raw edges. It should look like this. Before pinning your side seams together, attach your belt by matching up the markings. In my case, I measured from the top of my shoulder to my waist in order to place the belt at my natural waist since I have a short torso. Sew from the side seam to the hem of the sleeve in one stitching line. Finish the raw edge and repeat for the other side. It should look like this. Before sewing your collar, make sure to iron on your interfacing to one of the collar pieces. Pin the two collar pieces together with right sides facing and sew from the marking on the bottom edge of the collar all the way around the sides to the other marking, making sure to keep the collar open between the two circles. I chose to finish my raw edges with a serger. Now clip the corners of the collar and flip right side out. Press out the corners nice and square, and cut a notch to the circles in order to make your collar lie flat. Press and/or sew a top stitching line around the edges of the collar. Now match up your markings on the collar with the markings on the jacket and pin all the way around. I am placing my interfaced collar piece towards the outside, and since I'm going to be enclosing my collar into the lining, I'm going to sew both edges of the collar down. Then sew into place at 5/8 of an inch. Now here's where I'm going to fully enclose my lining and jacket. With right sides together, pin your lining to your jacket around the neckline. Be sure to catch both pieces of the collar, but do not catch the edges of the collar that are not attached to the jacket. Continue pinning the front facing and lining all the way down the center front edges. Sew all together and finish the raw edges. Before you flip, clip the corners of the jacket you just finished. Then flip the jacket right side out. Before closing the hem, we're going to enclose the sleeves. Reach through the armhole and grab the edge of the sleeve. Pull it through, and with right sides together, pin your lining and sleeve together at the sleeve hem. Sew it 5/8 of an inch and finish the raw edge. Repeat for the other side. Your sleeve should now look like this. Then flip your jacket inside out, and with right sides together, pin your lining to your jacket hem all the way across. Leave a small opening to flip your jacket through. Finish the raw edges and clip the corners before flipping right side out. Press out your corners nice and square, and press all of your newly sewn edges with your iron. Hand stitch the small opening at the bottom of your lining closed. And following the placement of your pattern piece, sew on the buttons and buttonholes to the front and collar. And now you're done! Vogue V9136 is a great, simple coat pattern with fun touches of design. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time.